Hi there, my name is John Cook from A Little Bit of Stone, and this is a Q&A video with the candidates in the upcoming county council elections for the Stone Rural District. A Little Bit of Stone, if you don't know, is an independent news website covering the town of Stone and the surrounding areas, and we're now in our 11th year. There are 5 candidates standing in this election. In alphabetical order by surname, they are Daniel Bentley for Reform UK, Jim Davies, an independent candidate, David Nicol for Labour, Ian Parry, the Conservative incumbent, and Alec Sandiford for the Liberal Democrats. All candidates were invited to take part in this Q&A session. Ian Parry, the incumbent Conservative, declined to take part. All questions were submitted by the public, and we've put the same questions to each candidate. The format is the same for all candidates. They can make an opening statement for 2 minutes. They then have 8 questions that they've previously seen, with a minute to answer each of those. They then have 8 unseen questions, which they also then have to answer within a minute. And then finally, they can give a closing statement. If you've got any questions about the answers given or about any of the candidates, it's definitely worthwhile heading over to our website, finding the candidate profile, and also getting in touch with them directly to ask them any direct questions or ask them to expand on any of their answers. The candidates will now give their opening statements.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Bentley, the Reform UK candidate for Stone Rural. For the past 10 years living here in Barlaston, part of the Stone Rural ward, has shown me how rural life can have both positive and negatives. We live in such places of outstanding beauty, but sadly we do not see the investment and basic needs that we require for day-to-day life. In this interview, I'm here to participate in this virtual debate to answer some of your questions on how voting for me on the 6th of May can start a new outlook for our area.
Hello. I confess that I'm a South Londoner by birth and schooling, but I was commissioned directly into the RAF, in which I served for 27 years. I went to many places around the world doing a wide range of jobs, and over from firefighting in London during the strike of 1977 through to running a major part of the logistic effort in Cyprus during the first Gulf War, pausing in between times to play important roles in a number of very successful IT projects. When I left the RAF, I became the IT coordinator for the Director of Education for Stoke-on-Trent. Since then, after 6 years in the world of commercial logistics, I've been running my own service consultancy and training business with clients such as Kinetic and Vodafone. Now, I first came to this area when I was posted to RAF Stafford, 16 MU to many people, from 1977 to 1980, and I returned in 1992 with Lynn, my wife. We lived until 2003 in Stone itself, before moving here to Hilderstone. In 2000, Lynn became involved in local politics and was elected to Stone Town Council and later to Stafford Borough Council. In 2003-04, she had a very successful year as Stone Town Mayor, which seemed to trigger a problem with the local branch of the national political parties to which she then belonged. And I was hugely disappointed to see how this local branch was actually mostly interested in internal party discipline and obedience to Stafford Borough. We thought that the people of Stone deserved a better, more constructive and non-partisan option in our local politics. With the result, we have the increasingly successful independent movement in Stone. By 2019, we have won all 18 Stone Town Council seats, all 5 Borough Council seats, and the Stone Urban County seat. I believe that extending that successful independent approach to Stone Rural Division will be a great benefit to all its residents. Thank you.
Give us your opening statement, please, David.
Oh, thank you very much. My name's David, David Nicol. I'm, as has been introduced to you, the Labour candidate for Stone Rural. I'm an accountant. I've been an accountant for over 30 years, and I've run my own firm, my own business for over the last 15 years. I'm also a certified sustainability practitioner, which means that not only am I interested in numbers and making sure that things work efficiently and effectively and things are auditable and traceable and so on, but also committed to our wider environment. That's something that I've been committed to for a very, very long time. I was part of the big wave of change that hits the UK electoral system back in the late 1980s, when the environmental agenda really suddenly became a very big part of the electoral landscape. My business is in fact already net zero, so that's something I personally take very, very seriously. I'm a parent. I have 2 children. I have a teenager just about to finish school and join to university. I have another university level student as a child. And so, of course, I'm very much interested in what their futures are like, what their education is like, their access to employment, and the wider environment that they're living in, their ability to access housing, their ability to access local infrastructure, so entertainment, things like that. Very much part of what I'm about as a potential county councillor, trying to make sure that not only people's futures reflect what their needs are, but also making sure that we're able to do it in a sensible kind of way. So that's me, David Nichol, your Labour candidate for Stone Rural.
Well, good afternoon, John, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the residents and voters of the Stonewall division for the upcoming elections. A quick thank you to you and everyone at A Little Bit of Stone for taking the time out of your busy schedule for organising this. And I myself and my local party are really appreciative of the opportunity to speak to as many people in current weird circumstances as possible. So yeah, like a little bit about myself. My name is Alex Sandyford. I'm the Liberal Democrat candidate for Stone Rural for the upcoming elections. I'm born and bred in Staffordshire. I live in Blythebridge for a number of years now with my wife and 3 children. I used to have a cat, but that's gone now. Anyway, so what I believe in is community. And since I've lived here, I've been active in the community in terms of parish councils, community groups, and indeed charities. The reason I'm standing for election is really a personal commitment to improving the area. I see a lot that's wrong and a lot of disattachment from the people, the communities, and those that are elected to improve the areas. So yeah, so that's a little bit about myself, really, without going on too much more.
Question number 1. As new developments spring up, critical infrastructure such as medical services, schools and transport seem to be left behind. What will you do to ensure that the towns and villages can cope with increased demands on these services?
Section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act is an agreement of money between the developer and the council to secure financial contributions to provide infrastructure. In an article by the BBC, the English councils were sitting on a near 1.5 billion of this cash unspent, while 9.5 billion had been returned to its developers due to it not being spent in the time frame. I'll be making sure that these financial agreements aren't just petty cash, but they can serve communities in total with the desperate infrastructure needed. And every pound of these community funds by developers are available and spent where needed. After all, our rural communities are the ones that are being pressurised in taking all these developments. Communities want to see actual results and no further reviews.
Well, just to be clear, the county council is responsible for planning developments for minerals or waste and for its own planning requests, such as for building new schools. In the context of major developments, responsibility for making sure the money's there for new schools, roads, healthcare and so on lies with the local planning authority. In the case of Stone Rural, that is Stafford Borough. Large developments are subject to what is known as Section 106, where the developer is required to provide the money for adequate new infrastructure. As a county councillor, my role would be to monitor the borough's actions in liaison with the relevant borough ward members where the immediate responsibility lies. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Staffordshire, from talking to my Labour colleagues in the County Council, has a pretty poor record in getting developers to pay up their contributions towards making that infrastructure happen. And part of the problem, I think, seems to be the way in which planning and the enforcement of planning is split at different levels through our council infrastructure. Part of it's at borough level, part of it's at county level. And certainly I think the county councillors need to take a much stronger stand in encouraging their local borough counterparts where necessary, but also speaking out against the developers to make sure that they are paying their community infrastructure levies, paying their Section 106 payments, making sure that's properly built into the plans that they put in place for developing new estates, don't buck their responsibilities.
Well, thanks for the question, John. The cuts made to the county council budget, both by central government and the current Conservatives in charge of the council, have been devastating to services. So until the Tories are voted out, it is to the community who must reverse this. So I'm promising all the support I can give to strengthening grassroots community action, from women's aid to support Staffordshire community transport services to home carers and part-time teachers. In the council chamber, I and fellow Lib Dems are determined to speak up for local services. As a unified group, we must provide a real alternative voice against the massive current Conservative majority in council.
Question number 2. What tangible, measurable things are you proposing to do to make the life in Stone Rural better by the end of your term? Please confine your answers to real, actual actions that are measurable and have a clear success or failure.
To act on these high standards expected, so constituents see what is expected from any future elected member. They should meet the 7 principles of public life. Some of these which are selflessness, integrity, and openness with our community. Adding to this, a system to assist all our community.
I think the crucial word here is measurable. What are the services provided by the County Council that residents consider essential to a good life? What quality of service do residents have the right to expect? And how do we measure the delivery of that service? That is the essential starting point. We can then identify the sort of evidence we need to prove to our residents that the ongoing improvement is taking place and we're getting value for money. For example, potholes are a major cause of concern. How effective are the repairs, and how much does each repair cost? Are records kept of the locations where the work has to be repeated? Why does the work have to be repeated? Was the initial repair a cheap sticking plaster job, or was repair carried out badly? How much money are we wasting by having to rework jobs? This approach needs to be applied across all the County Council services. Thank you.
Really, really good question, this one, and actually very tough for people who are standing for council for the first time to answer, like myself and many of the other candidates. We will find this extremely tough to answer because part of the role and responsibility of the councillor is representing you to the council. Driving a lot of those changes requires the council as a whole to make changes. The kinds of things that I can do, very difficult to say at this stage, but what I can promise, and it's very easily measurable, is to make myself available and accountable to people. One of the things that I've noticed very much over the last year and a bit is that my local councillor, I've never seen them. I've never come across them. I've never seen a surgery advertised, things like that. So I would want to make sure that people can actually access me, and for me to be able to then take their concerns on and report back.
Thank you for that. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, David.
Well, in Stone Rural, in particular, there's many grassroots councillors, both on borough and parish level, that are highly active, but have been ignored by the county council for too long, in my opinion. What I want to do is bring the most energetic of them, as well as community activists, together to form working parties to address some of our major problems in the division. There will be an immediate force for a betterment of the division. As a Liberal Democrat, I can do this more easily. One real power a county council has is to influence decisions made by the county's highways department. We need more signage on narrowed country lanes and more speed car measures. I'll be working hard to put these into place.
Mental health has taken its toll on many people throughout this recent pandemic. What ideas would you champion to improve the health of those in the Stone Rural District?
Speaking to users of the mental health system, sometimes sanctuaries, as they're called, are offered but can be far away from the county. It's evidence that in place for access to these support lines aren't working. A mental health time that isn't fit for purpose in this county, with users and parents and local charities, a working group within the community to achieve the best possible with our community. An idea that would work with youth clubs, sports teams, courses and classes, community centres, and use community funding. From personal experience of living through it and now a survivor, it's okay to admit when you are struggling. Take a brief moment and encourage those near you and have a conversation about their day, as no one should ever face getting access alone, and as one community we can make sure those who need help can get it.
Poor mental health was a major issue before the pandemic hit us, and the situation is now, of course, much worse. We must continue to support the work of our mental health professionals in every way we can and ensure that our social care services are alert to mental health issues. We are also fortunate in having many excellent community and voluntary organisations which all have a vital role to play as lockdown eases and safe social mixing becomes possible. Personally, I can't wait to get back to non-Zoom choral singing, and I hope to see our community choirs back in live action soon. And it's good to see the sporting scene re-emerging and many other important and fulfilling cultural activities beginning to restart. Thank you.
The County Council at the moment does an awful lot of work signposting people to a whole raft of NHS and voluntary services on mental health. But I think there's a lot more that can be done on that in terms of actually delivering services for mental health. And I think some of this taps in maybe some of your other questions a bit later on. Encouraging things like the park run schemes, getting people out into the countryside, making use of our available country infrastructure that's been proven to make a big difference to people's mental health, making use of our local community centres, village halls, things like that, as a way of getting people together, again, makes a huge difference to people's mental health. And COVID, as you rightly pointed out, made a big difference to people's health over the course of the last 12 months. So I'd really want to build on working with our local communities to make that much more of a priority.
Well, for that really, what I will say is I'm going to give all my support to the Staffordshire Better project, which is where the local NHS, in partnership with local government and voluntary sector groups, is creating a unified approach to the health of the county's residents. Campaign around Stone Rural, I've spoken to people about their feelings of isolation in the pandemic, so I know well the issues, and I'm proud to say that I was a co-founder of the award-winning Fulford Community Relief Group that was set up at the height of the pandemic last year. Isolation can be combated to a great extent if people learn new digital Zoom, like for example, Zoom. This is why I will give my support to developing libraries' online services and to the recently developed new Staffordshire Community Learning Project. These have been lifesavers during the pandemic.
Question number 4. HS2 cuts heavily through the Stone Rural District. What is your view on HS2? And if it goes ahead as planned, what would you see as the direct benefits for the communities impacted in the Stone Rural District?
I'm very much against HS2. It's a project which isn't wanted by many and won't be afforded by the many unless you're chief executive. As we're spending billions on this project, we're already spending on the electrification of the railway. We may see small benefits in the next 25 years, giving opportunities to learn skills for our younger generations and more local train services, but only in the distant future. But here in the present, most of us work locally and enjoy a trip to the big cities. We need local links back up for rural communities to access facilities and employment opportunities. One area locally The last bus that leaves Henley is 5 to 4. Well, Stone is 5:30. This doesn't work for local workers, so an expensive taxi fare home. The structure is significantly disadvantaging those who live in rural communities.
Well, I like trains, but my view on this project as a whole is that while it is technically admirable, its main benefits, I understand them to be capacity and speed, no longer justify its enormous cost, if they ever did. In fact, I fear the quality of our existing train services would suffer as they could get downgraded to semi-fast status. And moreover, if HS2 goes as planned, I see huge and lengthy disruption, particularly to the western part of Stone Rural, with little or no direct benefit to any of us as a result. We should demand that HS2 pay for improved community facilities, especially for sports. We must insist that HS2 gets over its arrogant self-regard and admits the merits of the Stone Railhead Crisis Group's excellent proposal for re-siting the destructive railhead that HS2 are threatening to Yarnfield. The Crisis Group's alternative is cheaper, more convenient, and opens new possibilities. Thank you.
I'm personally not a fan of HS2 in any shape or form. I don't think it will achieve any of the stated objectives for it. I'm very much of the view that it's really just going to drive more and more trade and more transport back down towards London. I don't think it will do the effect of driving trade more into the Midlands and North. And as for Stone Rural, quite frankly, I think it will deliver absolutely nothing for us. It will just act as a vehicle to destroy some of our natural environment and to take a resource away from us into the bigger city conglomerations of Birmingham, Manchester and London. I don't see it delivering anything for us at all, quite frankly, and I think it's a huge waste of time. That money could be much better spent on delivering much more local and regional infrastructure.
Well, thanks for that question, John. HS2 comes up a hell of a lot with residents, and you know, most of them do actually oppose HS2 in principle. I, for one, I said in the general election on your hustings then, I've said it and I've maintained it. I'm against HS2. I don't see that it offers any benefits to the area. Yet again, our beautiful county is being used to benefit those in the surrounding areas. You know, from greenbelt to forestry being destroyed. If you have to ask me on a benefit at all, I would say the short-term jobs, but yet again, it does not benefit the county. So I am opposed to HS2.
Question number 5. Many candidates have manifestos that say, I will do X if elected. However, at all levels, councillors don't work in silos and certainly not developing policy for a specific ward or district. How will you work with your fellow councillors and council staff to ensure the entire council come on board with your ideas?
When taking public office, it should be very much the answer that the whole council and community should be involved in working together to improve the entire county, but also those of specific wards or communities. Debate is very much key, along with the crucial evidence to why ideas are a benefit to communities. If elected, I look forward to speaking with district, town or village councils to see where the county council is failing in these actions, which should be seen by our constituents.
My experience of the county council staff is that they are very competent professionals who are open to sensible suggestions from wherever they originate. Some party loyalists claim that because they belong to a ready-made team, their policies will always have a better chance, whereas independents could get left out in the cold and ignored. In reality, of course, if a party loyalist has an idea that is not acceptable for whatever reason to their party hierarchy, they will get nowhere. And if they complain publicly about it or fail to dance to the tune of their political masters, they will be disciplined. Independents, in contrast, are free to pursue their own ideas, but rightly have to produce a convincing case. Successful independents can be very effective in showing intelligence, integrity, and excellent networking skills. Look at the success of Stone Town and look at the success of Frome in Somerset. Thank you.
That is an absolutely excellent question. And in fact, one of the things that we do as part of the Labour Party selection process for candidates is make sure that we're all in touch with our existing Labour county councillors across the rest of the county. So I've already been to a number of meetings with my fellow Labour county councillors, or hopefully fellow Labour county councillors if I get elected, to start to get introduced to that system, to meet them and to discuss the agendas that they have and the concerns that they have. We've already shared ideas on a cross-county basis, and all contribute, even the prospective councillors have contributed to our county-wide agenda and county-wide manifesto. So this is very much something that it's very much the heart of what we're trying to achieve, of working together and making sure that we're able to deliver for the people.
Cheers, John. Well, as we all know, you can't work successfully with other people if you bluster and shout or sulk in a corner, which sadly is what some Tory and Labour councillors do. Having twice been a parish councillor where consent is what actually matters, not argument, I know what is required to bring people around. And it's also a matter of personality. I'm a friendly, happy-go chap, and I talk to people as they want to be talked to and treat people as they want to be treated. But make no mistake, I'm also very dogged, patient and persistent. If I feel that what I'm doing is right and honourable, I will not let it go until the matter is resolved, and you can count on that. Thank you.
Question number 6. On-street parking falls under the remit of the County Council. How would you like to see this develop to support things like EV charging for residents and visitors, or creating available parking near shops or hospitality businesses?
Innovations are continuing to happen. A successful one currently is in progress is street post charging. £20 million of funding has been allocated by the government for local authorities to apply for installation of charge points for local authority owned car parks. From the same pot, the funding of on-street charging, including the funding available for village hall and community centres.
Well, first of all, to provide adequate parking requires space to be actually available for it. Fortunately, throughout the Stone Rural Division, while there are some areas where parking is difficult, adequate parking already exists in many places. And new businesses need to address their parking needs before they initiate their proposals, and the local planning authority, Stafford Borough, should consider traffic impact and parking in planning applications. Electric vehicle charging points are another matter. Charging points are relatively easy for residents who own their own off-street or off-road parking, and we now see charging points appearing in public parks and on some quiet roads. However, for residents in high density housing and flats, it can be impractical. In my view, EVs are in fact an interim solution. The long-term answer is, of course, the promise of green hydrogen, which provides for convenience and range without associated pollution. Thank you.
Parking, absolutely critical when it comes to particularly revitalising some of our smaller town centres. Equally a problem in some of our villages. I live in a village and there are parking issues with some housing backing straight onto the main road with very little space for them. And so parking space is, yes, absolutely critical. And I think our EV infrastructure, our electric vehicle infrastructure, has been woefully neglected, including, in fact, our hydrogen refueling infrastructure as well. Both of those need strong national input and drive, but equally, I think there's a lot our local council can be doing at a county level to make sure that the facilities are available. Now, there are difficulties because there are a number of different systems for electrical vehicle charging available out there. But I certainly think there's plenty of scope for our councils to be talking to the manufacturers and implementing those charging points.
Okay, well, thanks, John. First, developing charging points for electric vehicles is not an option, it's actually a must. Electric cars are critical, so we must support charging points in local parking areas belonging to the pubs, as in Sandon, for example, or supermarkets. I would want to wait for a report on the pros and cons of on-street charging points, but we do know that technology, including charging times, is improving fast. The Lib Dems have proposed a £140 million programme for Staffordshire to regenerate our small businesses after the pandemic. In a climate emergency, we should encourage jump on, jump off vehicles in town centres so that shoppers must easily be able to get to the shops. I would still like some aspects of parking in towns, except for the disabled, limited to designated car parks. Thank you.
Question number 7. What investment is to be made in sustainable transport within Stone and beyond? The local roads have become very intimidating to cyclists in recent years due to the volume of traffic. Might we see, for example, improvements to the canal towpaths or dedicated cycle paths?
The Canal and River Trust and the working groups that help and assist in maintaining the canal network do a great job of maintaining the vast network of the canal. Some areas of the towpath are on the to-do list, but some have concerns with electric and communication links, which these are causing considerable delays. The design is essential of cycle paths. People don't like to be cycling amongst the high speeding traffic or mixing with pedestrians. We've all been in a situation where we're either the cyclist or the pedestrian. So let's open the debate together and see what we can do with cyclists, road users and pedestrians to encourage to improve these improvements.
Thank you. Well, first of all, can I say that buses are not always the solution we should be seeking. But as far as cyclists, most of the cyclists I see pedaling around our rural areas are recreational cyclists using the roads out of choice. Now, it is the responsibility of all road users, self-propelled and powered, to use that shared space considerately. And I imagine that these cyclists are also motorists too. In our built-up areas, if there's space, cycle lanes can be beneficial. However, in the Stone area, cars are essential for the vast majority of residents, and we already suffer from congestion and hazardous road layouts. We should be careful not to make matters worse. We must also not forget pedestrians, especially the elderly, who feel intimidated by the way some inconsiderate cyclists behave. Turning to canal footpaths, these are narrow and potential conflict between walkers and cyclists is real. I believe people on foot should always have priority there.
Again, an important point. Some people who follow me on Facebook might have seen some of the comments I've made about a recent CPRE excellent report on public transport infrastructure in our rural communities. And I think there's a lot that can be done there to help green our transport infrastructure. As far as cycling is concerned, I absolutely agree. It's really quite difficult for them at times, particularly in our more rural lanes. Yes, we have a county-wide cycle network, but the nearest track on our cycle network is about 5 miles away from where I live, and I've got to get there. And that's on a country road at 60 miles an hour that's quite narrow and quite winding. So yes, extremely intimidating. I think there's an awful lot that we can do to make use of our public footways, our bridleways, talking to the Canal and River Trust, things like that.
Excellent.
Well, for many ordinary people, cycling is not the answer. Cyclists I speak to in Stone Wall say that the dreadful potholes on our roads must be fixed and speeding on narrow lanes curbed if road cycling is to be properly safe. However, I personally like the new developments in electric tricycles, which are safe, easy to use, and a way forward for commuter use. Cycling has a massive health benefits though, and I would support ways that we can establish dedicated safe cycle paths for leisure use. The Conservative cuts to funding for buses have been devastating. So what we can do is to get the bus routes that are left promoted for optimum use. First, the council must clamp down really hard on poor service from the contracted bus companies, then do a huge publicity campaign, and then we can try to make a greener travel look more appealing.
Question number 8. Over recent years, climate emergencies have been declared by councils and government. Do you support the view that we're in a climate emergency? And if so, how can the County Council address this?
Of course, we all have a climate emergency happening, but we actually do caring about the planet is something we all do, whether we realise this. This may be gardening, shopping for local produce, cycling to work, and recycling. We all do a little bit to help the climate already, reducing anything we can. Looking at reviewing our techniques and how we can better support how we recycle, reducing energy consumption and making our open spaces better. As a county councillor, I will look at steering the direction and the council's mission and improving how green our buildings are, and assisting our local schools and education providers in getting funding to go green and putting more money into children's education.
The threat from man-made climate change is now generally accepted throughout the world, as is the need to take action. And it's good to see so many efforts being made here in the UK. Obviously, the County Council itself cannot save the world all by its own efforts, but it must contribute to the development and the implementation locally of the meaningful national and international measures. I'm afraid eye-catching gestures are of no use. And to that end, I fully support the County Council's all-party working group and its climate change action plan. Thank you.
Absolutely. As you gathered from my introduction, that's something I'm absolutely passionate about. We are in a climate emergency. The County Council did declare one back in 2019, but since then, quite frankly, progress has been woeful. I've had a look this morning at their so-called action plan to deal with the issues, and there are so many to be confirmed and to be arranged in there that, quite frankly, it's a complete waste of space as a document. We need timed, verifiable, actionable statements. We need to do a thorough audit of what we're doing as a council. We need to do a thorough and comprehensive plan, roadmap, call it what you will, that gives very specific targets that we need to achieve and things we need to do, and it needs to be reported back to people so that you can see that we're making the progress on it. The tools are there for us to do it. The council's not doing it at the moment. We need to be much more active.
Well, frankly, the science is now so definite that I don't know how anyone cannot believe that there's actually a climate emergency. Yes, it is an emergency, and the government's target of zero emissions by 2035 is a good sign that that it is being taken seriously. The County Council's role should be that of a massive enabler of green policies. The council has a role in big picture strategic planning for the county. So let's see wise policies in that area. For example, we need to encourage wind farms, but in the appropriate places, not all over Greenbelt, which is the common way forward. So let's start thinking and talking about that. I personally would like to see and use the prestige of the council to set up a county-wide conference for all concerned groups to come and give their ideas on the way forward.
Question number 9. As we hopefully head out of COVID, what will you do to ensure that Stone Rural comes back better?
So this is going to be a very hard one, but financial awareness, and of course, we need to support our high streets. As a county council candidate, I wish to remove the car parking charges that the county council impose, because all the small businesses need all the help they need. As far as this, our small villages and that, they need as much support in gaining and having the local events to happen. So we need an open, honest opinion with all councils, lower and communities, to give enough leeway so communities can bounce back once again and thrive more openly.
Well, we've got to identify where there is a need for assistance, both in voluntary and community groups where we can help them. we need to look at sources of funding. I know that Robert Jenrick, the minister, has sent down some money from on high, and I want to see that distributed out by the parish councils in particular to where it's going to be beneficial. I think we need to encourage communities as a whole to come together and work together. I think they naturally will do, to ensure that we rebuild the communities and rebuild our the way we all interact with each other confidently, and that will also address matters such as the mental health problems that we've experienced as well. It's up to all of us, really. Thank you.
What I think we need, certainly from a county council point of view, is supporting our various businesses that are very client focused, very client faced. We need to get the people out there enjoying our beautiful countryside and enjoying the fabulous range of shops that we have. We need to do a lot of work on that. Stone as an area has some great ideas. We've had things like the various country markets, town festivals, things like that. We need to make use of that, but for the wider community across our villages, right the way ranging from, as I say, from Blythe Bridge down to Eccleshall to wherever, across the whole stack of areas, to really promote and publicise what people are doing.
Well, thanks for that question, because you hear it a lot from central government: build back better, build back stronger. And what we need to do is have an individual who will be the mouthpiece for Stone Rural, who will stand there and fight for a fair share of funding and enable the people of Stone to see a return from the taxes that they pay into the system. Far too long, I've actually seen the area not being represented and not acquire its funding that it deserves. What I can promise is that by using certain legislation like the Sustainable Communities Act, you can actually directly call on ministers to look at issues which will enable more funding to the area. Thank you.
Question number 10. How important is it that the county councillor engages with the borough and parish councils by attending meetings and providing updates into those?
It's very crucial. Unfortunately, we've seen that members of the public have said that they're not seeing their county councillor. These meetings, like lower council, like parish council and town council, they need that information and how to move forward on issues. So for county councils, attending these meetings should be just part of any normal day, any normal month, to keep them informed of any actions that may be taking place, any funding that is available to these parish councils, and be face to face with their constituents.
Well, so far as the borough council is concerned, there is quite a distinct separation between what the borough council's responsibilities are and those of the county. So regarding borough council, I think there's a lot of liaison is required. So far as the county council and parish are concerned, I think this is crucial. I think the parishes are the people best in touch with their local communities. And in Stone Rural, which has a varied community, I think it's absolutely vital that the county councillor is always engaged with the parish councils, attends the parish council meetings as and when it can be done. And with Zoom, it's been easier to do that, of course, and is ready to be approached by all the residents of the division which the councillor represents. Thanks.
Absolutely critical. Now, it's going to be difficult to be able to attend every single parish and borough meeting over the course of a year. I mean, if you add them all up with a meeting every month, I'd never see my wife and family if I went to all of them. But certainly attending a good number of them and providing regular written reports and making sure that they are providing written reports into me as the county councillor, absolutely critical. I know there are a number of parishes that get fairly regular attendance and some that don't. And again, we need to make sure that every part of the area, every part of Stone Rural Division is contributing into that process. So yes, absolutely critical. Get the visibility, attend as many meetings as is feasibly possible, but also provide the feedback and create those mechanisms to allow the two-way flow of information, because we can't do it alone. We have to do it together.
Well, thanks for that question, John. It's one close to my heart with being a parish councillor myself for Forsbrook. I've attended many meetings, as other parish councillors had, when I used to sit on the Fulford Parish Council, and time again, you have no representation from the borough or county. Now, most people don't understand the level of how issues need to be resolved. Parish councils have very limited power on actually directly making change. So you solely need a borough, but in this case, a county councillor present at meetings monthly to be the mouthpiece back to the local officers in order to get things done. Sadly, at the moment, for year on year, this hasn't happened. I want to change that.
Question number 11. Being a county councillor requires a lot of time and effort to dedicate to your constituents. How will you balance your other existing commitments to ensure Stone Rural gets the attention it needs?
Well, I'm taking small leave from a business I already run, already managed, so I already prioritise my council work where possible. Obviously, it's so important if we're going to work together and the constituents get best value of their votes. It's important that that workplace balance and home life is always on point.
Well, I'm in the very fortunate position of being semi-retired, and my ongoing business ticks over in the background. And although I have a number of wonderful commitments to things such as the Air Training Corps, the Royal Air Force Association, obviously Stone Town Council, and Hilderstone Parish Council, I see that many of the county council activities take place during the day. And as far as the evening activities are concerned, I'm already involved with those as far as Stone Town and Hilderstone are concerned. And I would very much look forward to being present for the meetings of the other parish councils in the division. I don't see a problem there. Thank you.
Good question. And that's one of the great advantages of running your own business, as I do, because it gives you significantly more flexibility over when you do things, which allows you to then fit in various things around the needs of the community. So I'm not just restricted to only doing things of an evening or only doing things at a weekend, because I can move around when I do things. And equally, accountancy, a good chunk of what I do is sitting down with a set of paperwork and just plowing my way through it. So I don't need the access to people necessarily during working hours. I also happen to have built a client base that works on the basis of I do things at odd hours anyway. It works for them. It works for their nature of the business. So I think the key thing is being flexible, and that's very much what I have my life around.
Well, great question. And first, I always start by saying I never commit to anything if I don't know, if I don't think I'll be able to give it the time that it requires. Being a county councillor is a massive responsibility on any elected councillor, and they should take it seriously. Being a law student, I'm currently working from home, which gives me all the time I need to be active, visible, and to engage with residents. If elected, this will not change, and I will be there for people. I can assure you of that. Thank you.
Question number 12. It seems like Stone Rural has potholes that would rival Eastern Europe. What do you propose to do to tackle the spine-crunching road network?
Well, I live on actual private roads. It's got potholes like the moon. But yes, I think initiation is very important in this. If we're going to be cyclists or whatever, however we use the road, it's important that your council tax goes in them potholes, because I don't think any of us want to burst a tyre. So it's so important to fill these holes in, get on top of them, and then we won't be having problems, continuous problems, and making sure the contractors that the county council pay out of your tax actually do the correct job with the correct equipment.
Oh, what a good question. Yes, I also have experienced many spine-crunching moments in Stone Rural, and indeed on the other day on the M6 coming south, where they put in that smart motorway, some dreadful potholes there. So I'm afraid Stone Rural does not have the monopoly of this problem. I think I alluded to this earlier on in one of the other answers I gave. We've got to be careful we just don't throw money at these issues. We have to make sure that we're using the resources we've got to best effect. I know that the county council has been investing in some new innovative machinery to help fix potholes properly. But as I said before, do they fix them permanently? Otherwise, you have to go back to rework all these potholes all the time. That makes matters worse. It costs a lot of money. So we've got to invest. We've got to use the money that we have, though, carefully, and making sure we get best value for it.
Don't I know it as well? And that, of course, harks back to an earlier question we had on the cycling. It makes it really dangerous for cyclists on the potholes. It makes it very dangerous for the cars. It damages our cars. It costs the council money, which is unnecessary. And a lot of it is down to a lack of planning on the part of the council. A lot of it is down to a lack of money that the council has, because local central government has stripped the county council of a lot of money. However, there are ways of tackling it. You may have seen recently that JCB have introduced a new tool that allows us to repair potholes much faster, much more quickly. We're actually part of a trial area, I think, Staffordshire, to do it, to use it and to trial it out. I'd like to see how that works, but absolutely, it's the key area that a lot of people shout about for the county council, and we need to be fairly high on the agenda.
Well, yeah, and they are absolutely terrible in the area. I've tried for 18 months to, as a parish councillor and also as a member of the community, to fix this, even shaming them and going to the local press. I see the record number of funding given by the county council, and I just don't see it in Stone Rural. In order to tackle problems, what you need is a councillor who is active, lives in the area, and actually wants to sort it out. You know, potholes, they directly affect my children walking to school. They directly affect people I know who have got mobility issues, and it's simply not good enough. I will get it done. I can assure you of that.
Question number 13. Did your campaign support local businesses for things like leaflets, distribution, marketing and advertising? If so, which ones did you use? And if not, why didn't you stick local?
My party actually chose one down, well, actually a few miles away, not in its Rural. It was just a party area, party policy to use a local distribution to manage the party's distribution of leafleting. Otherwise, if we could have done as an independent candidate, I would have used them if I had the option to, because supporting local and having the produce, and that is so important to support business in making their business.
Yes, absolutely. Supporting local businesses is crucial. And I was very happy, as I have done in the past, to use the good services of Panda Press, who've done an excellent job for me this time than they did last time round. I set up my technical headquarters. I go around leafleting in any pub gardens that are open to give me refreshment while I'm on the hoof, supporting them. And I think you've got to put your money where your mouth is as far as this is concerned. And I've had a lot of support from people around the town and around Stone Rural itself, making sure that, you know, I know where the businesses are. I know who I need to speak to. I need to make sure that they are being supported as best as they can. Absolutely. We are blessed with a lot of good businesses around here, and we must make full use of them. Thanks.
Very good question. Okay. To be quite honest, some of our stuff has been done locally, some of our stuff has been done nationally. it's purely a question of, in many instances, has been a question of what has been COVID manipulable in terms of when we can get access to facilities and so on. So we've had a mixture of the two. Some of our leaflets within the constituency area have been done with local printers. Some of it has been done actually, and it has literally just been a case of what's been available at the time within the kind of timescales that we've been able to have. This has been a very odd campaign because of COVID. We've not been allowed to do an awful lot of stuff that we would have liked to have done. As a result, we've only had a very limited amount of stuff that we've done as well.
Well, thanks, John. I always try and keep business local. You know, my wife and family shop local in shops, and me and my local party, Stafford Centre Liberal Democrats, have ran a campaign to support local businesses, shop local and stay safe. And I, if elected, will work closely with businesses to ensure they get as much promotion and help necessary. In terms of the election, I use AM Leafleting, which is based in Stoke. It's the most local company I can use for literature and distribution. I have used Leaflet Limited, very close on Blythe Bridge and Grinley Lane, but with current demands, they weren't able to help me. So I use the next closest, which is Stoke, a few miles up the road, and I'm proud to support local businesses.
Question number 14. What is a signature issue that you will be championing if you're elected?
I'll be championing making sure that every rural village and town council get the answers that they need, and making sure that constituents get to see their county councillor in person, because I think we have a lot of challenges to face in the next 4 years as an elected councillor. I feel like there's a lot of issues, but we need to get rid of the division and hate that we might have in the community, no matter what part of the spectrum that we stand, is we need to get the job done correctly.
I think the signature issue is probably one that relates to my background as a logistician. A lot of what there is, on one hand, we've got all the usual management stuff that I'm interested in, which is to make sure we're getting value for money and that services are being managed properly. And I hope to bring my expertise into that. But a more real issue, and as alluded to around the other questions, was to do with rural transport. And I think there's a lot of rather sloppy thinking going on about how we meet transport issues. People just say, oh, it must be buses or it must be cycles. You can't imagine people from Hildestone, especially old people, cycling down to Stoke to do their shopping and cycling back again. There are a number of new developments in the way of thinking about transport, more than just the dial-a-ride process, and that's what we need to examine. We need to examine it sensibly. Buses are a solution, but they may not be a solution to the problem we've got, particularly in the rural areas. So that's an area I would like to explore. Thanks.
The signature issue for me has got to be the environment. Absolute number one. That's something that you'll see on the leaflets that I have produced and put out. You'll see that in the kind of statements that I've made on Facebook, things like that. It's very much a part of who I am as an individual. It's part of my background. Making sure that we do desperately deal with the challenges of the 2030 climate change agenda. We're way behind where we need to be as a country. And it is such a major catastrophe that's coming our way if we don't act yesterday. So that's going to be, for me, that's my signature issue.
It's very difficult to say one. So if I can give you two, that'll be okay. But I'll start with the main one. What I want to do, the issue that I'll be championing is to acquire more funding for services in Stone Rural. And when I say services, I mean infrastructure and youth services. They've been completely decimated, they're non-existent, and I will be the champion of that. Thank you.
Question 15. The Stone Rural District contains some lovely areas. What are some of your favourite places to visit and enjoy?
I do enjoy Barlaston. That's obviously my hometown, and I also obviously enjoy the lovely area of Downs Bank. I don't really walk around Ecclesham. I have walked around Moddersham, but any countryside in the rural area is just beautiful, and we need to preserve it because we are under threat of so much development. And there are brownfields where waving a stick at stopping development, and we need to try and stop it in its tracks. Otherwise, use the necessary funding of the section provided in my last question is used to make sure that our infrastructure is the best.
Well, obviously, my favourite place is where I have the pleasure of living, which is Hildestone, which I think is a lovely village, lovely people, and we're looking forward to the Roebuck opening on the 17th of May. I can continue to support a local business that way. No, we've got a great variety in Stone Rural, haven't we? We've got from secluded villages such as places like Millich, Moddershall, where I was down there the other day. But we've got areas of great community, the Blythe Bridge, Mere Heath, Rough Close, all those sorts of places. Barlaston, these are real communities that we should be proud of. And I think they all have their own particular charms and interests. So we are blessed with some lovely countryside around here, and we must make sure we protect that so we can enjoy it, and people who come to this area enjoy it as well, and spend their money and support our businesses too. Thanks.
Oh, well, I have to say, I would always say around my home area, of course, which is around Hildestone, Cotwalton, that kind of neck of the woods. I love going down to Downs Bank. Who doesn't? It is just fabulous out there. So I would have to say there. I mean, you're quite right. We have beautiful countryside here. We are very blessed to have what we've got, and we need to maintain it.
Well, that's a bit of a trick question, because if you name one, then you're alienating the other areas. But what I will diplomatically say is Staffordshire's got some of the best countryside and views in the land, and I'm proud to live in Staffordshire. But on my travels during the election, I have quite enjoyed the views over the moorlands through Mere Heath. I like Barlaston, and Sandon's lovely as well. So yeah, and I'll keep it as that. But when you're as active as I am and walking around, you never get bored of the stunning views.
And finally, question 16. Rural crime is an issue for many of your constituents. What would you like to see done to address this, to provide a safe place for people to live and work?
This is a very big concern, especially in recent months where we've had businesses and communities wreak havoc by people not being properly prosecuted or coming out of prison. I would like to work with the Police and Crime Commissioner, the new Police and Crime Commissioner, to make sure that we have an effective community policing. And I admire what has happened in Stone, where they were setting up their police initiative of patrolling the local businesses, because it's unfair when you, as a local business owner, why should you work so hard and have a theft? Why should we work so hard and have your property vandalized?
Yeah, I'm afraid rural crime does tend to hit the headlines, perhaps because of its rarity. I'm in discussion from time to time with Chief Inspector Parsons of Staffordshire Police, and in chairing the Stone Parish Liaison Group as well. We also address the aspect of crime, and I think for many people actually it's more the fear of crime than the crime itself, depending on whether you believe the figures or not. Yes, we do have crime around the rural areas. It's sometimes a bit of a soft target, isn't it? And we need, I think, all of us to keep our eyes open and to see if anything nefarious is happening, and make sure we alert the police to that. The police, of course, have their limited resources. It'd be lovely to have the village bobby in every community, wouldn't it? So we've got to work together with the police. We've got to help them, but we've got to be their eyes and ears as well. And let's hope we can keep this under control. Thanks.
Very good point. And this is why, again, Labour has I'm sorry to promote him rather than myself, but we have an extremely good candidate for the Police and Fire Commissioner. But absolutely, we do need to have good local policing. I'd certainly be pressing him in terms of just having the facilities there, the people there, the stations there, the bobbies on the beat, as it were, that everybody desperately wants. It does make a big difference to people's perceptions of crime, but also then making sure that the county council is supporting the safety infrastructure. So looking at how we use CCTVs, how we encourage local businesses in terms of their own crime prevention and security systems and apparatus. There's perhaps stuff we can do there. I wouldn't know the details necessarily yet, but we can be certainly talking to householders and our business community.
Thanks for that question, John. Well, one thing I do as a parish councillor with Forsbrook is you work with the liaise with the PCOs. So locally, you have a lot of issues with young youths hanging around, which get into mischief. And what we need is more community policing and visible on the streets, which is a natural deterrent for crime. Now, what I would do is liaise with Staffordshire Police, work with other county councillors and the parish councils to make sure that the visibility is there. The funding is not there. So what we need is to lobby to get more funding, which is completely possible. You just need the will and the desire to do so. And yet again, you know, I'm one of these people where it's been worrying me for a while, worrying people, and I will look into it.
The candidates will now give their closing statements.
By voting together on the 6th of May, we can start by shaping our local area without hate or division between each other, listening to each other on all sides by taking into consideration any issues at hand, all while coming up with a positive approach and resolution to ensure that the majority in our communities are happy with the outcome moving forward. I look forward to hopefully meeting you in the elected period, but if not, I wish you a safe and outcome in the COVID situation, and stay safe.
As I had an option to mention before, Stone Rural Division is a really varied area with communities ranging from dispersed farms and estates, scattered villages, large semi-urban areas, through to the northwest portion of Stone Town itself. It's certainly not the place for a one-size-fits-all approach. What may concern rightly the people of Garshall Green may not be the main problem in Walton North or Mere Heath. The key to the successful representation of Stone Rural Division, to me, is an active engagement with all our parish councils, as I mentioned before. Fulford, Barlaston, Sandon and Burston, Military and Fradswell, Hilderstone, and of course Stone Town. For the past 5 years, I've had the pleasure of working with the representatives of most of those councils in the Stone Area Parish Liaison Group, which I set up and still chair. And I've been very impressed by the knowledge and experience out there, and I want to see it recognised and used. Personally, I believe I can serve the people of Stone Rural Division as effectively as anyone with my considerable experience of business, management, leadership and local politics. However, I am not a conventional politician and certainly not a party politician of any hue. I have never been a member of any national political party, but locally I have seen them in action at close hand. As an independent councillor, I will judge each issue on its merits and work on the county council with other councillors and the officers to get the best for the people of Stone Rural and indeed for all the people of Staffordshire. I believe I offer a credible alternative, and the choice, quite rightly, is with the electors. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time. This has been a pleasure, I think. Always nice to have the questions. Let's say, so what is it that really summarises my campaign? Well, along with most of the Labour candidates, I think there are 5 key things that we're going to be really pushing with you. Firstly, of course, my top priority, the environment, and environments living green initiatives that meet our global goal requirements, but also meet local needs. An economy for the community, roads, education, health. We need long-term solutions, not short-term patches, to make sure that our roads work. We've got the potholes sorted. We've got the mental health aspects of being able to walk around and access the countryside sorted. We've got to be able to give youth skills for our future. So having skills and apprenticeship systems in place to help our young people, but also then the transport systems that allows them to get to work, that allows them to get home from work, that allows them to get into entertainment and social venues and things outside of work. We need a sustainable local economy. So we need to invest in our local businesses, making sure that wealth remains in our community and isn't going off to big global multinationals where it gets sent off into tax havens. We need the money spent locally. And then a fully funded sustainable future for our social care and our local public services so that it's flexible, it meets our needs now, but also going into the future. Those are the kinds of key things that I think will make a big difference for us here in Stone Rural and across the wider Staffordshire community. So thank you very much for your time. My name's David Nicol, and I am your Labour candidate for Stone Rural. Thank you.
Well, thank you, John. Friends, residents, neighbours, the last year has been incredibly tough for us all, and we've all made sacrifices. And if anything has shown me over the last year is how we still have community, we still feel the desire to help people, and so many people have been left behind, left to struggle. On far too long, the Stone Division seat has been left unrepresented, with no visible action and no one to tackle your problems that concern you most. And I, on May the 6th, would like and hopefully to change that. If elected, I promise to hold regular drop-in surgeries, either physically or around with my campaign marquee in the village halls. I promise to send out regular literature, either by email newsletter or having it distributed. And in this general election, I've so far distributed 12,000 pieces of literature. It can be done, and if elected with me, it will be done. No one should be left behind, and issues should be dealt with. I promise to attend to all parish council meetings, and people will be updated regularly. You need someone, put party politics to one side. You need an individual who's passionate, proactive, and willing to fight for our area. And on May the 6th, I hope to be the person that can do this for you. And I promise I will not let you down. Thank you.